Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of Podcraft. This is the show all about how to run a successful podcast. I'm Colin Gray from Alitu and the podcast host, and I'm joined by Matthew as always. How are you getting on, Matthew?
Good morning to you, and good whatever time of the day it is, I suppose, to the listener. I could steal that now because Libson's The Feed is no longer on the go, so they used to say that a lot. So
is that what they said?
Yeah, I think it was generic
Nice.
Time of the day, which I always thought was quite funny. But yeah, I'm having it.
Nice, good. I'm sure Rob and Elsie won't mind. Right, what have we got today? We've got an episode of Do You Still Need XYZ in 2026? So a wee bit of a looking ahead for the year, isn't it, Matthew? Or even looking back at previous years, I guess. We're going to look through a whole bunch of things that we've been told in history that we need for our podcast, and that whether we do need them again in 2026 or whether something's changed, eh? Is that the idea, Matthew?
Yeah, I really like the thought that we scripted and planned this episode in like 2013, and it's just wildly, outrageously wrong. But yeah, I like to
predictions.
Like to think this will be quite useful for the listener. Because as podcasters, we always hear, you should be doing this, you need to have that, you don't need to have this anymore, and it gets quite confusing, especially when these things seem to chop and change over the years. And I'm not denying that some things do change, but some other things are a bit more what's the word? Static? That's negative connotations.
Reliable?
But you know what I mean? Yeah, reliable. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a bunch of stuff that is actually, it was good advice. It is good advice, maybe even still, but things that, like you say, things have changed, but it wasn't something that was claimed to be necessary, but just things that we think are good ideas, things that we think are total standard in podcasting, that maybe things have changed a little bit on those as well. So yeah, we'll dig into as much as we can. We've got a whole bunch of them in front of us here. We've kind of ordered them by priority, so we'll go through as much as we can in 45 minutes or so, won't we, Matthew, and see what advice we can give.
Yeah, I mean, even now I'm adding to this list, so I think we could get a few episodes out of this. Yeah, I was just adding some more stuff. So nice. I think there's maybe a wee mini series in here, which is cool.
Yeah, maybe come back to it in future. I also want to, though, just a wee tease for a future episode. We've never really done prediction episodes, have we? We've talked about this a few times. I enjoy a prediction episode. I know a lot of people out there enjoy a prediction episode. It's quite fun to hear, people in the industry, people relatively, that are familiar with what's happening, to have a guess at what will happen next year. But it's always kind of a fool's errand, isn't it? No one will really appreciate the ones you got right, and they'll just bring up all the ones you got wrong. Plus, it's quite a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about predictions. Like, I feel that you have to be saying something pretty clever and interesting and insightful. Like, it's no use making a prediction that everyone's like, well, obviously that will happen. So then do you end up going the other way and saying things that just blatantly won't happen, just to try and sound a bit clever and edgy, and hoping that by next January nobody remembers that you said it? Yeah. I don't know.
That's the trouble, isn't it? Like, I mean, it's rare that a real surprise happens, really. Like massive shifts in industries that no one saw coming, or at least few people saw coming. So prediction episodes should be generally pretty predictable. Predictable predictions. But yeah, we'll maybe do that next week, but we could come back to this in a future one, yeah, for sure. All right, let's jump into it, though. Let's get in. Just before we start, I'll just say this episode, as always, is sponsored by our own podcast maker app, Alitu. So if you are in the new year and you're wanting to get your episode out there, do look at Alitu for the way to create your show. And if you already make a show as well, if you're running a show, it's the way to make your workflow much easier and much better. Keep it all in one place. It has call recording, it's got audio editing, it's got audio cleanup, does all of that stuff for you, the ums and the ahs, the noise reduction, and it's got hosting too. So I'll come back to that a bit later on, give you a bit more detail, but do check out Alitu. Supports all of the free content like this that we do. It's over at alitu.com. That's ALITU.com. Right, let's jump into it, Matthew. So what you got first?
Do you still need a podcast website in 2026? What's your view on that, Colin?
I mean, yes. I think this has changed a bit, hasn't it? But I think there's always a reason to have a great home base for your website. And I think there's still two great ways to do it. You can have your own website. You can have like your own brand, whatever it is, .com, or you can have it hosted on the podcast hosting website as well. I think there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of good podcast hosting hosted websites these days, and a couple of other options as well, such as, I'm sure we'll get to it, one of your favorites, Matthew, Podpage as well. But definitely, I mean, the counter argument to it is that there's a lot of podcasts now that just basically live on YouTube. A lot of people are starting a podcast and thinking of that just as a podcast, and therefore their YouTube channel is actually their home base now. But it just doesn't give you the control that I think you need to be able to grow a brand around it. Like being able to put, email list signups and put your other content on there and like have control over it, have your own domain, have your own brand there, and have full ownership over that content. But I think that's the counter argument at the moment, isn't it? Like having it on a platform like that yes, does help discovery, but also takes away some of that ownership. But yeah, what's your thoughts, Matthew?
Yeah, totally. And you're right. And you mentioned YouTube there, and we've said it time and time before, if you're using a third-party platform, any third-party platform, things could drastically change overnight. Your channel could be deleted. There's all sorts of risks there. So making sure that you have something that you own and control is really important, I think. And, in the past, one of the major reasons for a website, I think, was discoverability because of the SEO. Like if you're creating episodes that are solving problems or giving information that your listener finds helpful and is searching for, then people were landing on your website if you've created companion blog posts. And that still is a thing, but I would say rather than it being a growth tool now, it is, like you say, Colin, more of that home base, isn't it? It's just somewhere that's a constant. Like, over the years, we've seen all these different platforms come and go. Just think of some of them in the past, like remember like some Meerkat and obviously Twitter, that's completely changed. And these things come and go, people build followings on them, but it's very ephemeral. Is that a word? It sounds like it should be. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Whereas, the podcasthost.com, for what, 15 plus years, it's just been, been the name. That's been where people have to come. And we've changed the site over the years, but people know this is where we come. So it's just that constant home base, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I think particularly when you come to monetization, you come to growth and monetization, particularly if you want to convert people into, buying your services, buying your products, or you want to get them on a support tier like a Patreon or something similar to that. Having your own website gives you so many more options in listing those services, listing those support methods, all of those kind of things, offering up like bonus content, all of these kind of things. Having your own space for that is great. I think though, it's never been easier as well, I think is the big thing, isn't it? Like even if you do use a podcast hosting website, if you have your own domain, so you sign up for your own domain, yourdomain.com, whatever that is, then you can white label that onto your podcast hosting website. And then even though it is hosted with the podcast host, you might move away from that in future. You at least have that domain so that if you did move, you could recreate something similar elsewhere. And Podpage as well, Matthew, talk about that. Like Podpage is one of the best options there, isn't it? Because it's like such an easy one that you do have a lot of ownership over. It's hosted, it's taken care of for you for a wee fee, essentially. We talk about it a lot. It's no sponsorships are in. We know the owner. We just like the tool, really, don't we, Matthew?
Yeah, Podpage is a total no-brainer for me. Like I've used it so many times in the past, and you literally take your RSS feed, you copy that in from your hosting provider, copy it into Podpage, and like in a couple of minutes, it makes the website for you. So you can get really involved in it. They've got loads of different tools and features. You could run a blog on there. You could get voice feedback clips. They've got loads of features, but you don't have to use them. That's the thing. Like it'll just update as you publish episodes. Like you could just leave it alone, and it 9 times out of 10 it's going to look better and have a wee bit more about it than the generic one you get from your host. So
yeah, for sure. I'll pop in. We've got an affiliate relationship with Podpage as well. If you want to do another way to support our content, please do use the link in the show notes. We'll pop that in, won't we, Matthew? The affiliate link there. Might even have a discount code or something. We'll pop that in too if there is one there just now current. We'll check that out. But yeah, use our description link if you don't mind, and that gives us a wee bonus and no extra cost to you.
Yeah, it's
Right.
thepodcasthost.com/pod page. You'll find that.
Nice. Excellent. Cool. Right, let's do another one, Matthew. What about, do you still need a podcast trailer in 2026?
Yes, I think you do. A trailer, it's a low barrier way for any curious listeners to check your show out, and it's not a huge job to make one, is it? Really?
No, it's like, it's less work than making a whole episode, isn't it? Just script out a wee kind of trailer around, like, giving the benefits of your show, what you talk about, the uniqueness of it, saying who it's for, all of those kind of things. We've got a guide to making a good trailer, don't we? So you can get that structure. So all you need to do is write up a kind of 1 minute script around that structure that we've got listed on the site, and then you can put it together, record it, maybe even put a little bit of music behind it, make it sound good. And then, pop that up on your feed. You can put that on Apple Pods and the like. Many of the hosting providers, many of the listening apps as well, let you feature a trailer, don't they? Because you can select it as a trailer in the settings for the episode, and then that shows it up really nicely, doesn't it, Matthew?
Yeah, totally. And of course, you do need that like one quote unquote episode to launch your show, don't you? Like before you submit to Apple, you need that one episode in your feed, and that can be a trailer. That can be a 25 to 45 second trailer. So that counts as your episode and helps get you launched. And it puts you through that wee process of, I've recorded some, I've produced it, I've hit upload. It's just that little monkey off your back. Very low stakes, and you can always make a better one further down the line. Don't try and make something amazingly perfect first time. Just do your best and get on with it.
Yeah, trailers are not only great for putting on your podcast feed and letting people who find your feed have something to listen to and really hook them in, but they're great for collaboration as well, like getting in touch with other podcasters with a similar audience and giving them your trailer to play and saying you'll play their trailer. Something like that can work really nicely. Like, it's one of the best ways to get listeners is to find a similar show and just convince them that you've got a different take on it, or a similar take, or something, another perspective on that topic that they already love. Really easy little swap there, isn't there?
100%. Yeah, but you think about your trailer going out on another podcast, like literally everyone who hears it is a podcast listener. It's a great place for your trailer to be. And collaboration, that is the C in our scale framework for podcast growth. So trailer swap's a big part of that. And I'm going to put a link in the show notes to a little video I did showing off the Raphonic graph tool, where you could find different podcasts to collaborate with. I've always really liked that tool. So did a wee video on it, and I'll stick it in the show notes.
Yeah, perfect. The other one that's worth looking at is SparkToro as well. SparkToro is a tool. It's a paid tool, but I think you do get a few free searches where you can type in your podcast specifically, or even just your wider topic, and it basically shows you all of the different media assets that people consume within that topic. So it'll show you, if people listen to your podcast, here's other shows they also listen to, or if people listen to your podcast, then here's the other blogs that they listen to. So you can start to look at all the other places where these people consume their content, and that's great places for collaboration.
All right then, cracking on with another one. Colin, do you still need Apple Podcast reviews in 2026?
Just to show that we're not doing all of these as yes. No, you never really did you?
No.
I mean, reviews are funny because they are worthwhile getting. Like, I do look at reviews when I think about listening to a new show. So they're great for social proof. Like if somebody's browsing through, they find your show, they maybe have a look at the reviews, they maybe look at the number of reviews as well to see how established you are, essentially. Like, sometimes I think if somebody's got 0 reviews, it's not even necessarily a bad thing around the content. It's just that they've not been going for very long. So maybe I don't want to listen to that yet because it's just a brand new show. But yeah, other than that, they're just not essential, are they?
No, like throughout the years, I've always felt, and again, you make good points, like that there are great benefits to getting them. But I've always felt they're a wee bit of a waste of your CTA at the end of your podcast. Like, there's a lot of things you could ask for that move the needle, and I would put reviews quite far down on that. I mean, one reason alone for that is just like, a lot of people are listening on Apple Podcasts, but a lot of people aren't. So, straight away, your call to action's not relevant to a lot of people that are listening.
Yeah. Like 2/3, eh? Like,
yeah,
a third or so on average listen on Apple Pods. So,
yeah. I mean, when you think about even in early calls to action, just, share this with one person you think might like it, or, even soliciting feedback or engagement from your listeners as well, which gives you the rewarding feedback that could drive you, but like it's more relevant to everyone listening. So I mean, even like if you look at Spotify these days, now I wouldn't do this as a call to action for the reasons I've just talked about, but like Spotify comments are much better than Apple Podcast reviews because they are specific to the episode and you could reply to them and they're conversational. Whereas like an Apple Podcast review, how many times over the years, Colin, have you on one of your podcasts had an Apple Podcast review that's a question and you're like, I can't even answer that. Like, really frustrating platform.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think one of the rare better ways to use them is if you are going to really push for them, then at least read them out on the show and read out those questions and stuff like that. But so many people don't do that. Like, it's give those folk a mention. And I have seen people do it for a short term. Like, actually, maybe it's worth having 10 or 15 reviews. So maybe you do spend a month and a half doing a campaign around trying to get yourself into the double figures, just so that you've got that little bit of established social proof. But yeah, absolutely, I agree. Like, move on to something else after that, whether it is that, asking for feedback, engagement, or those Spotify comments you just mentioned there. So yeah, totally agree there. All right, another one?
Yeah.
So, do you still need a podcast microphone in 2026?
And is this to do with the fact that, phones and laptops have great built-in mics, or some of them do, and we could do like AI audio cleanup in that these days as well?
Yeah, so my kind of wondering around this really is around, basically like you can record on a phone, you can record on a laptop, you can record on the crappiest mic ever, and actually a lot of the cleanup, a lot of the studio sound that you can get these days, even free, but particularly if you're using paid tools for this, make even the worst microphones sound pretty decent. But I'm sure that'll be rankling your professional audio production opinions. So yeah, tell me, what do you think?
So yeah, and I'm like happy to like take myself out this, as an audio producer. But I still think it's a yes for me. I still think you do need a podcast microphone, a dedicated podcast microphone in 2026. And I do acknowledge that like built-in mics and cleanup tools, they're getting better and better all the time. But like if we start from the point of view of the mic, then like we've talked about this quite recently, actually. Like one of the problems with a built-in mic is the technique, isn't it? Like, if your laptop's just sitting on the desk, you're not very close to it naturally. The same might be said if you're recording a phone. You'd have to hold up to your mouth basically. So starting from simple things like that, it's just, I know you could do it, but it's not optimal, is it?
Yeah. And you never want to trust that cleanup to fix terrible sound anyway. Like it's just not a good idea. And considering you get such good mics for a relatively decent value, and they just make it completely reliable, and they do sound better. Like a great mic sounds better than a crappy mic, even with the best cleanup. I think I reserve this kind of for maybe startups, people who are just starting up their podcast. I'm not entirely sure they want to do it yet. They're just testing things out. They maybe don't have the budget. So yeah, by all means, test it with no mic, like use your phone or your computer or something like that, and some decent cleanup for the first 5 or 10 episodes. But once you're into it, once you're taking it seriously, then, get yourself a 50 quid or an 100 quid microphone, whether it's the Q2U, Samsung Q2U that we both love, Matthew, for decent value, or something else as well.
Yeah, totally. And you're right. Like, the AI audio cleanup can do wonders with pretty bad recordings. But if you give it a really good recording, it could optimize it rather than repair it. And, with more and more podcasts on the market, take that wee extra advantage to stand out and just sound better. Yeah. I think it's worth it.
Definitely.
What about a microphone as like a physical prompt? Like just having the microphone there at your desk or on your boom arm. Does that, like, as you're passing by, is there a wee thing in your head that just reminds you, like, I'm a podcaster? Or, the fact that you've bought this, you've invested in it, even if it's just like 70 quid or that. Like it's just a
Yeah.
little sign like, no, I do this, I take this seriously. Is there something in that, do you think?
I think there is. Aye, we've seen this time and again. I think like once people properly buy in, like you need some skin in the game, don't you, to really get into something and really and really commit to it. So spending the money on a mic can be that can be the skin in the game. But also you're absolutely right, there's a bit of identity, isn't there, as well? Like to be able to commit to something and stick to it week in, week out for not only months but maybe years, it needs to become part of your identity almost. Like you said there, I am a podcaster and I take this seriously. So yeah, I think absolutely there's not a small thing there around taking that step. And again, I wouldn't say you have to do that right at the start. I think you can do the testing, the dabbling phase. But as soon as you think, right, this is something I do want to commit to, yeah, spending a wee bit on a nice mic is one of those things that people enjoy doing, gets you a bit of gear, something shiny to go on your desk, and does have that little psychological commitment from your own side, for sure. Do you think that identifies with you as well? Or is that you've got too many mics, you don't need any more to make you feel like a podcaster?
Yeah, no, I think it is important. Yeah, and like you're saying, it not necessarily from day one, but if you're getting 7-10 episodes under your belt, still in the built-in mic, I would definitely consider, like Colin said, won't cost a lot. Look up the Samsung Q2U on Amazon. You usually get that for like 70-80 quid, and that's more than good enough. So yeah, get yourself a mic.
Definitely.
Next one then, Colin, do you still need a consistent format or length in 2026?
So I think this is an interesting one. The answer I often give to this in the past has been, it's good to have an average that you tend to stick to. So being a little bit grey area here, a little bit vague, but it's good to have an average that you tend to be at, but just don't let it hold you to only that if the content suggests otherwise. So, and I think that is still the case. I think, yes, it is still good to have an average, because I think when I listen to a show, when I become a fan of a show, I turn it on. I do make selections based on where I am and what context I'm in. Like I have a few shows which are on average 10-15 minutes, quite short ones, that I will actually choose if I know I'm just kind of standing in a queue for 10 minutes, or I'm just going for a short little walk to grab a sandwich or whatever. Whereas I'll pick a big long show, which is, on average 2 or 3 hours, big conversations, big interviews, if I know I'm going out for a big walk. So I'm aware of the average of the shows that I listen to, and it surprises me sometimes when they go a little bit different. So I think there is something around still building identity around having that kind of average. But again, that caveat, like don't let it stop you doing a 10-minute, news episode or a 2-hour long one if you normally do short, if there's something that comes up that makes it really suit that. So I get a little bit of it depends. But what do you think, Matthew? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to look back over your episodes and your published feed and notice at least a pattern. And there could be outliers and deviations, like you're saying, you're trying different things. But I think over the piece, you need to see that you're doing a certain thing most weeks. So I think mixing it up, different formats, different lengths, that potentially, you could make an argument that that's actually quite good for finding new listeners, because you're trying different things, you're chopping and changing. But maybe from a retention point of view, that is counterproductive. The folks who are already listening, they kind of want that continuity, they want that regularity, they want almost habits and expectations. And if you're chopping and changing too much, you might just lose them. Like they might get a bit frustrated. Do you think that's fair?
I do. I think particularly with the format, I think almost format can be a uniqueness. That can be a reason that people listen to your show, because of a particular format, because of particular segments. And if you do mix and match that too much, then you don't build habit around it. You don't build expectation. You don't build people saying, "Oh, I'm going to listen to that show because I'm quite looking forward to the news of the week segment or the joke of the week or whatever it might be." If you don't have a format like that, though, maybe it's just interview shows as opposed to solo. And I think you can get away with changing that up more often than not. But again, it still needs to be a kind of average, doesn't it? Like people will generally expect an interview show, let's say, but then every now and again, maybe once a month, you'll have a solo episode. And I think that's totally fine. Maybe even once every couple of weeks, you might have a solo episode, and that's kind of a treat, but it's a departure It's notable because it's a departure from the average, isn't it? I think that's the best way still to make a podcast. And the only reason that I'm a bit more hesitant about that these days is that kind of move towards more the algorithmic type approach, whereby your people are growing audiences on YouTube alone. People are growing audiences with short video, that kind of stuff. And that's much less about expectation and averages and much more about just having something new every single time. But I just don't think that suits the majority of podcasters by a long shot.
Mm. Yeah, not much more to add on that. I guess, well, one wee thing like on formats is I feel that as a non-fiction podcast, like a solo switch into an interview, switch into a co-hosted, I feel these are quite seamless transitions in the main for most podcasters. I don't think there's any concern, if you do one of the formats, switch into other ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's the wildly varying lens that might be just a bit more hard to palate for your listeners. So yeah. Try and have an average, I guess, but don't stop experimenting now and then.
Yeah, exactly. All right, what next?
To launch with 3 episodes, that was always advice over the years. Is it still true in 2026?
You still need to launch with 3 episodes. No, not at all. I think this one's gone by the wayside entirely. I think there are still some arguments for it. I think part of it was people claimed it helped with the algorithm, didn't it? Like if you had 3 episodes and people listened to 3 episodes in a row, if they were able to do that, then they'd be more likely that Apple would spot your podcast being really popular and would kind of boost you up the rankings and things like that. But I just don't think that's really a factor anymore at all. The argument I think there still is for it is maybe just to encourage that binge. Like if you're launching a show and you do want somebody to find an episode and then maybe to get really hooked in, maybe it is better to have more episodes. But I think the thing that overwhelms it entirely is the fact that 3 episodes is quite a big barrier. Like that puts off quite a lot of folk. And the amount of people we've worked with where getting just 1 episode out is barrier enough, that expecting folk to launch with 3 episodes is actually just really quite a high barrier to jump. And actually it's much more worthwhile having that small goal, get 1 episode out there and then just keep going from there. I think that's the case for me, certainly. Matthew, what do you think?
Totally, yeah. Get that monkey off your back and get something out there. The benefit of the 3 episodes for me wasn't so much the algorithm. It was more for new listeners to binge in one go, and that is a good thing. But again, it's not good enough to make you put 3 episodes together or try and just procrastinate and never get them out there. So instead of publishing 3, publish 1, but make sure you've got a really good reason for them to stick around at the end of that episode, given there's no more episodes in your feed. So make sure you know what episode 2 is about and make sure you really hook that, make sure you tease that at the end of your episode 1, because you want them to stick around. You don't just want them to think, well, that's me listening to all the episodes in this feed. So no
point subscribing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So be diligent about that in your summary and your call to action. But no need to publish with 3.
I like that. There's some real provenance that I've found as well. Like even like still launching shows myself these days. If we like, I don't know about you, Matthew, but if I put something new out and I did a new show recently, it still feels like something really special getting that first episode out there. Like there's commitment to it. They're talking about like the microphone thing, like buying a mic and it being a bit of a commitment, a bit of skin in the game. There's something around, the longer you take to launch that first bit of content, the longer you give yourself to give up on it and never actually do it. So making it a bigger job, making it 3 episodes just makes it more likely you'll never get to that start line. Whereas just getting that first episode out there, that's you suddenly skin in the game. It's like things out there in the world. You're making a commitment. And I feel there's something really special about that really can get you moving and motivated for the rest of it. So yeah, I think just get that as early as possible, as imperfect as possible. Just get something out there in the world and then build from there. The benefit we have as podcasters, Matthew, is that it's a slow burn, slow grow medium, isn't it? So there's a fair chance no one's ever going to listen to your first episode, frankly. And the first 5 to 10 are really just starting to build that skill, build that content, build a back catalogue for people who are going to find you in a few months to come back and listen to. So if the first episode's a bit crap, they'll know that your latest episode is much better, and so it's totally fine. That's how I tend to see it.
So the next question, I'm genuinely curious to get your opinion on this, Colin, because it affects me as a podcaster. So do podcasters still need to run or collect emails? Do they still need to run an email list in 2026? And I ask this because, like, on the one hand, I write our email at the podcast host, Podcraft Pointers, and it's a really valuable part of what we do. And I'm a big fan of email lists in general. But for my own show, I don't run one, and I've never tried to collect email addresses. And I always feel like I should, but then on the other hand, I'm like, it's just extra work, and I don't really want to commit to it. So I'm not sure. Like, give me your advice on this, please.
I think this is quite a strong. It depends. I think for a hobby show, no, absolutely not. You don't need it. But I think if you have any aspirations for your show to scale well, as in to grow a big audience and to actually earn from that show, then yes. I think the email list is so much the place where you can monetize. So that's where you put the calls to action in. You can direct people from the podcast. They listen to the podcast. You direct them to the email list, give them maybe a lead magnet, a bonus, whatever it might be to encourage them. You give them more information there, nurture them. And from there, that's where it's so much easier to actually give, sell your services or sell your products or sell your Patreon or whatever that might be. I think an email list is such a good tool in that side of things, in the monetization side of things, and really like super engaging your audience, being able to give them more and make sure that you're giving them extra value on top of the podcast, but equally bring them back to the podcast again and again, because you can push that content out to their email and tell them, here's what's new and here's why you need to listen to this new episode. But if you're a hobbyist and you're just doing it for fun and you're just growing a community and all those kind of things, and that kind of big scale and monetization is really not that much of a motivator for you right now, I think, yeah, exactly. It's a job that you just don't need to be doing.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I've been thinking up until now. Like, I couldn't see a compelling enough reason to dive in with email for my hobby show. Yeah. Like, what would be the ultimate outcome for me? And I couldn't really answer it. I'm not trying to sell anything or that. So yeah, maybe if I launch my commission painting service, I pity anyone who would hire me to paint their miniatures, given the standard of my own. But maybe that would be one for an email list. Yeah.
I think one factor that is becoming stronger and stronger though over the last couple of years, and even more so now, is the growth aspect of it. So one part is that scale side of it that I was talking about, and it's certainly true that email has become a way to more easily grow an audience. With like the Substacks and the Beehives and the like Substack is such a growth mechanism now as well. So you don't even need to promote your email list. Actually, Substack is promoting your email list for you to other people like you. So if you had an email list for your hobby show, for tabletop gaming or whatever, then Substack might recommend you if any people sign up for another like hobby or tabletop gaming or nerdy podcast like newsletter of some sort. And so it is a growth mechanism as well, and I think that's only going to get stronger too, actually. So that's one factor maybe in the hobby ones, but again, still you have to have that motivation to put some extra work in to scale that growth, to accelerate that growth.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, it's not an undertaking you should do lightly and without planning and strategy and the willingness to invest time into it. Better not to do it than just to have some half-arse thing.
Yeah, to mess around. Yeah.
So,
indeed. All right, let's do another one. What about? So here's one from the olden days, Matthew. Do you still need ID3 tags and the like, the kind of file metadata you used to put into your... Do you remember this process? Maybe we need to describe it to people, because probably a lot of people haven't actually had to do this in a long time. But when we used to master our MP3s back in like 2015, 2010, you'd have to type in ID3 tags into the file itself, and that would then become the data for the podcast listener. But do you still need to do that, Matthew?
We've almost answered the wrong question.
I know.
I just wanted to put this in there as a shout out to the old days. But I do remember on my old I can't even say it anymore. It's such old technology. The iPod So when I started like putting podcast episodes together in 2010, it was somebody who taught me how to do this. And you went into the iTunes desktop app and you went into the file and you could add cover art, so that when somebody loaded or downloaded the episode onto their iPod, it would display the cover art. And it was like, wow, that looks really professional. You know, you can put your artist's name in there and the show name. And bearing in mind, none of this was coming directly from like a podcast app. So I file metadata, just a shout out to the old days. But unsurprisingly, no, you don't need it now. I mean, when was the last time? Well, I'm going to say when was the last time I downloaded an actual file, but I do that for work reasons sometimes. But for the average podcast listener, they just don't see the files these days, do they?
Yeah. I mean, one side of it is all of that data comes through your host. So you type it into your host, you type in the title, the description, blah, 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 when you're publishing the episode. With Alitu, we actually still write the ID3 tags to the files. So if people host with us with Alitu, they make their podcast in the app, they host it, publish it with us. We actually do take the title and description that they write in and put it into the ID3 tags. And we've considered taking it out a few times in the last year or so, because it's just another part of the process. It adds a little bit of weight, a little bit of time, all that kind of stuff. And I've kept it in just because there is, I know it's so seldom, but there are still people that do that, people that roll their own, like listening methods, all that kind of stuff. And it's not too much extra work. So I've kept them in just for that kind of memory of the olden days. But if you're out there listening, I don't think you need to worry about it at all. If your host still does it automatically like Alitu does, then great, but don't worry about it otherwise.
All right then, do you still need podcast guests in 2026? This is quite a provocative one, Con. What's your thinking here?
So I did this one in because, actually, as a semi-serious question around the value of doing an interview show, so I'll come back to that, but also like just around the idea that like AI voicing, essentially, like this is becoming more and more kind of a more and more, or less and less, I should say, a kind of jokey thing whereby you'd have an AI voiced co-host or an AI voiced guest, and more people are actually playing around with it and actually putting this kind of stuff out there. And more the risk that actually it's going to be the host and the guest is purely AI voiced as well. So it's crazy that in future we could potentially just create our own content. And I actually remember, in fact, do you remember this, Matthew? Was it somebody we worked with who actually had this as a concept for their show maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, whereby they used the old computer voice, like the kind of traditional, it sounds a bit like a Stephen Hawking type voice from the computer, and used that as a guest. And it was kind of jokey, but it was actually quite a nice format because they would ask a question and they'd have their robot assistant answer it. And it became kind of a jokey way of adding a bit of dynamism, a bit of extra fun and difference to a solo show. Was that something we worked on, or does that ring a bell for you at all?
It does ring a bell, yeah. I can't remember the exact show, but totally, yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we robot voice. But yeah, so, I mean, surely, I've no doubt you'd more to say on that, but surely these things are gimmicky and they're not actually going to replace actual interviews, surely, with, people who...
No, you're right. It's not really, but it's more if you are a solo creator and you have a creative way to use it. Maybe that is something that could come into it. The way that that old show that I'm thinking of used it. It was a device rather than a replacement for, like, it was an enhancement rather than a replacement for humans. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we're not going to have actual AI interviewers. But I do have that question. Like, do you think so? Interview shows in general in 2026, like I feel like nearly every year we declare the death of the interview show because there's just so many more of them and they become so much more generic and blah blah blah. Like the competition's huge. Do you think that's actually a trend, or is it just that the most popular shows tend to be interview shows and therefore we tend to see it that way, whereas they're still working just fine actually for the majority of people?
I think the interview podcast is broken into two parts. If you think about your golf show, if you were getting a guest on there to interview them, that would be because they've very specific benefits that they could put to the listener. They could really help the listener on this topic. Whereas if you're ex-celebrity who's launched a podcast and you know why celebrity and you get them on and you just have a kind of chat, I think people are getting tired of that, two celebrities just having a chat with each other. But if it's a topical interview, we podcast about this, we try and solve this problem. Here's a person who could help. There's still immense value in that. So I don't think that's going anywhere. But yeah, the celebrity talking head stuff, I think people are getting a bit tired of that.
Yeah. And even the generic non-celebrity interview type show where it's like, we're just going to talk about, how to be happy and healthy. And it's going to be conversations with these people and talk through their entire backstory. I think even, that is the type of show that has always been kind of dying or already dead, to be fair, like so hard to grow. But you're absolutely right. Yeah. As soon as you have a show which is on a particular subject and you get guests in who have particular specialisms, a particular problem that they're going to talk through. Yeah, definitely. They're really good. Right. Here's a potentially contentious one for you, Matthew. Do podcasts in 2026 still need an RSS feed?
Yes, 100% yes. I'm dying on that hill. Okay. What about you?
I don't know. I mean, I'm less black and white on it these days. I think they should. I think it's still such a great tool for podcasters and the podcast industry, and it keeps podcasting open and it keeps it accessible to so many people. And it helps us rather than the platforms if we keep delivering it the way it always has been through RSS feeds, so you can listen to it anywhere, anytime, in any app that supports RSS. It's an open standard, all of that stuff. I think it should. But I'm hesitant these days to say if somebody goes and starts a podcast on YouTube, as an example, and does it video, but they're still just conversations every single week and they're publishing it only there and they don't have an RSS feed. I'm hesitant to tell them that's not a podcast because of the format. Like, I don't know. What do you think? Would you tell them that's not a podcast and they need to get it on our... I mean, it doesn't really matter to them. They're growing their audience, but is that not a podcast?
I wouldn't tell them that unless they asked. If they asked my opinion, I would tell them that. I wouldn't just get in touch and say, see that thing you're doing, it's not a podcast. They'd be like, who's this guy? So if they asked, I would obviously give my honest opinion. And that is that, whether we get into what is a podcast, what isn't a podcast, I think the more important factor here is that openness that you talked about, Colin. It's that inability for any one company to own podcasts, and I think that's vitally important. Worst case scenario, podcasting becomes Spotify's, it becomes YouTube's, and they own it, and we've lost the medium. I think that would be terrible for all sorts of reasons. So that's, to me, why RSS is, or not necessarily RSS, but technology that does the same thing. So it's not about RSS specifically, it's just the way RSS works.
Yeah, agreed. I totally agree with that. And I would still, anyone that came to us or even that I just talked to in an event or whatever that was running what they called a podcast and they only had it on YouTube, I would try and talk them as best I can into republishing it on RSS in some way so that it can be much more widely viewed and owned by them and all that stuff. So I do agree on all of it. I think, the argument about the black and whiteness of the name is tricky, but I completely agree that's how it should be done. Right. Should we do one more?
Let's go for it. I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you this one, knowing full well that you go for these big ultra marathons and you just binge Podcraft. You make a playlist. It's like Podcraft episodes from like 2012 and you just binge it and you're on like for 70 odd hours. So in 2026, do you still need to listen to your own episodes?
Oh yes, Matthew, every single one I listen to, I do. No, I mean, I think there's always been seasons for this, for listening to your own episodes. I think you should listen to your first 5 to 10 episodes. I think you should listen back to them at least the first month or two so that you can improve yourself while you're at your best kind of learning stage. You're just figuring it all out. And then I think after a couple of months, after maybe that 10 episode mark, check in once a month for that first 6 months or that first year. You don't need to listen to everyone. Listen to one every month, one every 2 months, and kind of check in and see what your technique's like, see if anything stands out to you to change. And after that, I mean, these days, the truth is I don't really listen to any of the podcasts that we create these days, Matthew. And I probably should. Like, I've become a bit kind of maybe laissez-faire about that. There's always things you can learn, really. But yeah, maybe even every few months at that point, maybe once every 6 months just to check in. What about you? Do you listen back?
Yes, but with the caveat that the episodes are at least 2 years old. So I think I've talked about this on the show before. Once a month, I do like a reroll. It's like a classic episode, and I put that out on the feed. So it's probably too much time has probably gone for that to be really pertinent to any of the kind of quirks that I've got going on at the moment. But one thing I've just never been happy with myself listening back, whether it's an older episode or a newer episode, I still feel that I've got so much more work to do to become a good interviewer, because I often feel, I think I talked about this quite recently, like the amount of follow-up questions when listening back that I feel I missed an opportunity. It really annoys me. So yeah, I'm super aware of that, and it, happens even more with listening back. But again, it's better that I'm aware of that and I could try and work on it, that I'm just blissfully ignorant and don't improve. So
Yeah. No, I should commit to listening to more, to be honest. I haven't listened back. For example, you mentioned the golf show. This is a new show that I've started recently. I should be listening to a few of them at least. I've been a bit arrogantly overconfident and not really done much work to make sure that it's coming across well. But it's a new host, it's a new subject, it's even a slightly different format from what we usually do. So I should be getting in that. So I'll commit to go and listen to a few of them actually over the next week or two. Because I think, you're never too old or never too experienced to learn and improve. So yeah, definitely, I'll jump back in. Alrighty, will that do us? Will that do enough for the list? We've got a few more here. Maybe we could come back to it, Matthew, in a future episode. We've got a few more we could come back to.
Yeah, so, I'm sure there's more legs in this. Yeah, and love to hear from the listener too. What did you think of that format? Do you want more of them? Let us know.
Yeah. And let us know your questions, actually, if you do that. Yeah, definitely get in touch. What's the best way to get in touch these days, Matthew?
I would love to get some voice clips in. thepodcasthost.com/voicemail is where you could submit that. Or you could send us an old traditional written word email, info@thepodcasthost.com.
Yeah, perfect. That'd be great to get. So yeah, any questions that you have, should we still be doing, and we'll do a few more of these too. So yeah, just to finish off, just mention Alitu again. If you are looking to improve your workflow this year in 2026, we'd love to get you to try it out. So yeah, we designed it years ago to be an easier way to edit, to create your podcast. And these days it's a fully featured podcast creation platform, competes with anything out there. We've got call recording in there, record your video or audio calls in there, go through audio cleanup, it'll take out all your noise reduction, it'll do your leveling, your voice EQ, all of that kind of stuff, make you sound spick and span. And then you can go into editing too, and you can edit either with the waveform, so the way you're used to, but in a really easy way. Actually, we've designed that to be a much better waveform experience than using audio engineering tools. Or with the transcript, you can actually just go through it like it's a Word doc and delete sentences as and when you need them. So yeah, you can go over and get a 7-day free trial there with Alitu if you want to move over. And yeah, we do hosting. So hosting is built in, but equally you can link with any other host out there too. So if you're brand new, you can host with us. And if you're already established, you can move your hosting to us if you wanted to. But if you already like your current hosting, you can actually link it up to that hosting. No problem at all, which is, we just like working with all the great hosts out there, actually. So yeah, go over to alitu.com. That's alitu.com. You can get a 7-day free trial there and test it out. All right, Matthew, thank you very much. Another good week of podcasting.
Yeah, thank you. Always good to chat.
Indeed. And thank you out there for listening along with Podcrafts. We'll speak to you next time. Cheers.